Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video if you want to see more content like this. As always, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you want to see me make next. I'd love to veganize a favorite recipe of yours or show you how you can make delicious vegan food oil-free. Today we're going to start with my cashew mayo, and then we're going to make my tofu mayo. And then we're going to use those in two dishes. We're going to make my vegan potato deviled eggs, and then we're going to make my soy curl vegan chicken salad, all of which is oil-free and forks over knives compliant. So let's get right into this video. So for my first recipe, we're going to make my cashew sauce, and I call it a cashew sauce because it's very versatile. You can use it as a mayo substitute, but you can also use it as a cream cheese or a sour cream. It's very versatile. So we're going to start by boiling our cashews. Now, if you have something like a Vitamix or a super high-speed blender, you can skip this step, but I only have a Ninja and it just does not blend my cashews enough. So I'm going to show those of you who don't how I do it. So basically, I'm just going to take my 2 cups of cashews and I'm going to add them to a boiling pot of water. Once that has come to a full raging boil, then I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat off. And then I'm going to leave it covered for about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is going to soften your cashews enough to blend them in your blender. Now, if you just have a basic regular blender, not a Ninja or anything like that, I would recommend that you would boil them for at least 5 to 10 minutes, then let them set for about 10-15 minutes or so. And then you're going to go ahead and drain those and let them cool off a little bit, and then you're ready to add them to your food processor. So we're going to go ahead and add the cashews right into our food processor. And then once we've added all of our cashews to the food processor, we'll go ahead and start adding the rest of our ingredients. First, I'm going to add some water, and then we're going to add some nutritional yeast, some white wine vinegar. The white wine vinegar is going to give it that little bit of tang. If you don't have white wine vinegar, you can just use regular vinegar. Apple cider vinegar works as well. Then we're going to add a little miso paste, and then I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Now, if you're salt-free, you could just substitute with a little more miso paste, but this really helps enhance the flavors of the nuts in this recipe. So now that we've added everything into the food processor, we're just going to go ahead and blend that up. So now that it's finished blending, I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys the consistency that you're looking for. It's going to be nice and thick. This is so perfect for so many things. You can use this as a base for an Alfredo sauce. You can use this as a sour cream or crema on your tacos, on your taco salad, on your baked potato. Whatever you want, you could literally put this stuff on. It's perfect as a mayo substitute. You could spread it on bread. You can use it on a bagel as cream cheese. It's super delicious and super savory. I really think you guys are going to enjoy this one. I'm going to go ahead and put mine in a mason jar and put it in my fridge, and it lasts for about 5 days in the refrigerator. I haven't tried freezing it. If you do and it works out, let us know in the comments down below. But that's it for this one, guys. So let's go ahead and move right into my next recipe. This is my tofu mayo. It only has a few ingredients. It's super quick and easy, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So for this recipe, we're going to use this shelf-stable Silken tofu. You're going to want the extra firm, and you're going to want to use this brand. You're not going to want to use a refrigerated tofu. It's really not going to work for this recipe, for the texture especially. So we're going to go ahead and just add all our ingredients right into the blender. I'm going to start with that tofu. Now, you don't need a special blender for this. You can use a food processor. Nothing fancy is required. Then we're going to add some more of that white wine vinegar. You could use regular or you could use apple cider vinegar, whatever works for you. You go ahead and use that. Then I'm going to add some maple syrup. This is not necessary, but I feel like it really enhances the flavors. Then we're going to add some Dijon mustard, and then I'm going to add some salt. And of course, you could substitute the salt with some miso paste if you're trying to skip salt. You could leave it out altogether, but of course, salt always enhances the flavors. Now we're going to go ahead and blend that up. So now that everything is done blended up, I'm just going to go ahead and add this one into a mason jar as well. This one will stay in the fridge for about 5 to 6 days. Of course, I haven't tried to freeze this one either, but it's very delicious, and I only use this one as a mayo. I haven't used it for anything else. I feel like the taste and the texture is really spot on for a mayo substitute. So let's go ahead and try it in some delicious recipes. So we're going to go ahead and start with my vegan potato deviled egg recipe. And I'm going to use that tofu mayo for this one because I was trying to keep the calories low for my husband and I, but I definitely recommend you use the cashew one for this because it really adds a savoriness to it. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and start by boiling some potatoes. You're going to want to add your potatoes to the pot to some cold water, and then you're going to bring it to a boil. You're going to boil these anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, depending on your potatoes and the size. I used little potatoes, which is what's recommended for this. And of course, I used yellow potatoes because they're perfectly creamy. So once you've boiled your potatoes, you're going to cover them and leave them, I'd say, for about 10 minutes. Give them a little more time to cook. And then you're going to drain them, and then you're going to let them cool before handling. I tried to leave them alone for about 20 minutes in a ice bath just so that they were ready for me to start using for this video. Once your potatoes are ready to handle, this recipe comes together pretty quickly. You're going to want to cut in half all of your potatoes. And then once those are done, we're going to go ahead and use a melon baller, and we're going to take a little center out of the potatoes so that we could make it a little authentic looking to a deviled egg. So once you've halved all your potatoes, you're going to take the smaller end of your melon baller, and you're just going to take a little piece out of each one of those, just a little half ball, so that we could fill those back up with our mixture. And we're going to be using that potato to make our mixture. So I boiled 8 potatoes. That made 16 halves. But I took the melon baller and took out a little ball out of each of these, and then I used 2 of the halves in the recipe as well. So you're only going to be filling 14 of these for this recipe. And I'm only mentioning how important that is for the calorie counters out there. I know, like myself, my husband and I are trying to watch our calories. So for us, it's important to have correct measurements for correct calorie counts. So we're going to go ahead and finish taking the little balls out of the rest of those. Now that you have all of the mixture in the middle, you're going to want to go ahead and mash that up. I'm just using my Pampered Chef little chopper, but you could use like a potato masher. You could even blend this up in a food processor. You just want to mash it up completely and get it ready for our next step. So now that our potatoes are all mashed up, we're going to start assembling this filling. Now I'm going to use that tofu mayo. It is lower in fat and lower in calories. If you are not watching your fats and trying to avoid nuts, you could use the cashew cream. You could also use a oil-free hummus. And if you're just vegan and you're not trying to stay oil-free, you could use a regular hummus or a vegan mayo. Then we're going to add some Dijon mustard, but you could use yellow mustard if you don't like Dijon. And then I'm going to add some white vinegar, some pepper, and then I have some dill. I'm using some freeze-dried dill this day because that's all I had on hand, and I'm all about using what you have, but you could use fresh. And then we're going to add a little bit of turmeric to this for color. So you could omit that if that doesn't matter to you, but I really like it. It makes it a little more fun. And then we're going to add some black salt. It's actually pink, but it's called black salt. You can find it on Amazon or in some specialty Indian markets. And I highly recommend you use this for this recipe to give it that eggy flavor, but you could omit it and use some Bragg's liquid aminos or some miso in place of that if you're avoiding salt. So once it's all mixed up, this is what you want it to look like. And then I'm just going to put it in a Ziploc bag because on this day I could not find my piping bags. I wanted to put a cute little tip on it and make them adorable for you guys, but I just had to use a Ziploc bag this day. So I'm just going to put it in a Ziploc bag, and then I'm going to cut a tip off the bottom, and then we'll go ahead and fill up these little deviled potatoes. So there you have it for this one, guys. I garnished it with a little bit of paprika. You could add a little dill on top or a little chive, whatever you want to do to make it cute. These are a perfect little appetizer for a barbecue or a picnic. Everyone's going to love them, and they're really versatile. You could really play around with the flavors and what you add to the filling inside. So let's go ahead and get on to our final recipe. So for my final recipe today, we are going to make my vegan chicken salad using soy curls. Soy curls are a whole food and they are approved on the Forks Over Knives diet in moderation. But if it's something that you don't have access to or something you don't eat, you could use chickpeas instead. So we're going to start out by boiling some water. You're going to need some soy curls and some vegan chicken base for this. Now, the vegan chicken base is a powder, and if you don't have access to that or you can't find one that's compliant, you could just use the organic vegetable Better Than Bouillon. It is oil-free and it's compliant, or you could use a vegetable broth of your choice. As always, you just do what works for you and best for your dietary needs. Adapt as needed. So once I've added that vegan chicken base to my water, I'm going to bring that to a boil, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my soy curls right into that water. I'm just going to mix them up a little bit, and then I'm going to turn off the heat. And then I'm going to place a lid on top, and I'm going to let those sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. You just want them to rehydrate and to absorb some of that flavor. And you could leave it plain, but I really feel like hydrating them in water doesn't give them as much of a savory flavor. So once they're finished, I'm just going to remove them from the pan and I'm going to let them cool. And then once they've cooled, you're going to go ahead and you're going to strain these with a cheesecloth or a nut bag. Or as I do, you can just use your hand over another bowl to get all the moisture out. You want to dry them out really well. And then we're just going to go ahead and chop these up because we want smaller pieces for our chicken salad. So once you finish cutting up your soy curls, you're just going to want them to look something like this. And then we're going to add them to a larger bowl and we're going to start assembling this salad. So we're going to start with some of that vegan mayonnaise I made. I'm using the tofu one, but you could use the cashew one or whatever else works for you. And then we have some diced onion, and then I have some diced celery. And then I'm going to add some dill relish. Now, if you don't want to use this or you don't have it, you could just use a little bit of lemon juice instead. You just want something a little acidic for this. And then I'm going to use some fresh parsley. Now you could omit this, but I really like the flavors of this in this, but it's not necessary. And then I'm going to add some more of that freeze-dried dill that I have. Of course, you could use fresh. I just used what I had on hand. A little garlic powder, a little onion powder, and then salt and pepper to taste. Again, you could skip the salt if need be, use Bragg's instead, or add a little miso to your mayo and mix it up before you add it in if you are trying to avoid salt. And then we're just going to mix it up and it's ready to serve. And there you have it for this one, guys. I really love how this turned out. Whole food, plant-based, oil-free, vegan chicken sandwich. You could serve this on some Ezekiel bread, your favorite whole wheat bread, or some lettuce wraps. As always, leave me a comment down below. Let me know which recipe you're excited about. And if you make one of my recipes, go ahead and tag me on Facebook and Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.